Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we cut through the noise to get you well-informed, fast.
Great to be here.
Today, we're zeroing in on something that affects every single one of us every single day, whether we realize it or not, our local government.
Absolutely. It's the layer of government closest to home.
Think about it from the condition of the roads you drive on, to the safety of the parks where your kids play, the responsiveness of public services. Local governance is really at the core of our daily lives.
It is so fundamental.
But how often do we really take a moment to, pull back the curtain and scrutinize what's happening behind the scenes in our own neighborhoods and communities?
It's remarkably easy to overlook, isn't it?
Yeah.
The nitty-gritty details of local government can seem distant, almost bureaucratic maybe, but their decisions have such immediate and profound impact.
On everything.
Yeah, on everything from property values to, say, emergency response times. And what's often fascinating is how the real action, the genuine friction, and maybe the most compelling pushes for change often start right there.
At that local level.
Exactly. Driven by citizens who feel directly impacted.
That's precisely what we're going to dive into today. We're taking a deep dive into an intriguing and, frankly, quite significant case emerging from Calaveras County, California.
Okay.
And this isn't just about typical political disagreements or, minor civic complaints. It's about a really robust movement of citizens and business owners.
Right.
And they claim they are systematically uncovering what they actually refer to as significant alleged public corruption and government malfeasance.
Wow. Okay. That's strong language. Significant public corruption, government malfeasance.
Very strong. Far-reaching allegations indicating a fundamental breakdown of trust, it seems.
Indeed. When a community uses language like that, it signals a level of profound frustration, doesn't it? And a perceived systemic failure that's moved way beyond just simple complaints.
Yeah, it's not a quiet murmur.
No, definitely not. It sounds like a very public and organized declaration of grievances, demanding accountability, and likely structural change.
Our primary source for this deep dive, which lays out their case in quite a bit of detail, is a dedicated online platform. Calaveras2026election.com.
Got it. Calaveras2026election.com.
Yeah, this website serves as the hub for what it terms the Calaveras County 2026 election movement. And it's driven, as the site powerfully states, by individuals who have reached the limits of their tolerance with the current state of affairs.
The limits of their tolerance. That phrase alone tells you a lot.
It really does.
That phrasing, it's quite telling, isn't it? It doesn't suggest just a sudden flashpoint, but more like a long-standing pattern of unresolved issues, maybe. A slow erosion of trust.
That seems to be the implication.
Yeah, that has finally prompted this collective and, it sounds like, highly structured response. It suggests a history of alleged inaction or maybe unresponsiveness, leading to this organized movement with a very clear political objective.
Tied to the election cycle.
Exactly, tied to the upcoming 2026 election cycle. They're essentially saying, we've tried other ways, and now this is it.
So our mission today is clear. We're going to thoroughly unpack the specific allegations, the detailed concerns, and importantly, the proposed solutions that this movement is putting forth.
Okay, let's do it.
We'll explore what they claim is happening on the ground in Calaveras County, and crucially, what they're advocating for as they look towards that pivotal 2026 election.
Right.
This isn't just a story about, the intricacies of local politics. It's a compelling illustration of how citizens can organize, document their case, and mobilize for fundamental change.
Especially when they feel unheard.
Exactly. When they feel unheard and, as they put it, profoundly disrespected by their government. It's really a testament to the potential power of community action.
All right, let's start by getting a clearer picture of this movement. We've referred to them as frustrated citizens and business owners. Who exactly are they? What defines their collective identity?
Okay, so the movement identifies itself very clearly. They call themselves a collective of underrepresented Calaveras County business owners and citizens.
Underrepresented, that's key. It is. That self-description is important because it highlights this feeling of disenfranchisement, right? That their voices, their interests, aren't being adequately considered or represented by the current powers that be.
And where are they based? Is it just one town?
No, and that's significant too. Their representation spans a wide geographical area within the county. Specifically, they mention areas from Murphy's, the historic gold rush town known for wine and tourism,
Right, right.
all the way to Valley Springs, which is more of a gateway to the Central Valley.
So it's not just localized.
Exactly. This isn't a grievance from one small pocket. It strongly suggests a more widespread, maybe systemic dissatisfaction impacting various communities across the county.
And their motivation.
Their stated motivation, as the website really emphasizes, is having, again, reached the limits of our tolerance with ineffective and conflicted Calaveras County government.
Ineffective and conflicted.
Yeah, implying a deep-seated and pervasive issue, not just, isolated incidents.
That's a powerful statement of collective disillusionment. And their core objective seems equally clear. They say they're striving for a better Calaveras County of tomorrow.
Right, future-focused.
And the 2026 election is presented not just as an opportunity, but as the critical juncture for this change. It sounds like they're demanding concrete action, not empty words and promises. Action, not words.
This isn't subtle. It's a very direct challenge to the incumbents, to the established way of doing things. What does that emphasis on action tell you about how they see past performance?
Well, that emphasis on action over empty words and promises is incredibly telling, I think.
Yeah.
It speaks to a deep-seated belief that maybe past assurances from county leadership have either been unfulfilled, or maybe any actions taken were just ineffective, leading to this state they call ineffective and conflicted.
Broken promises, basically.
Or just inaction. Yeah, this isn't some vague call for general improvement. It's really focused, aimed at a specific electoral cycle, framing 2026 as this definitive moment for accountability.
Essentially, yeah. They're saying the time for talking is over, and now it's time for a fundamental reorientation of county priorities towards the actual, tangible needs of its citizens and businesses. It suggests they see a pattern of rhetoric just not translating into progress.
Now, let's talk about the big, bold claims, ones that really jump out immediately when you land on their platform.
Yeah.
They prominently feature these things they call newsia flash. The first one, all incumbent Calaveras County supervisors are under state investigation.
Whoa, okay, that's significant. A state investigation.
And then, perhaps even more startling, another news flash. Calaveras County has a pedophile problem. Is Calaveras a safe place to visit or live in?
My goodness, that's incredibly serious and sensitive.
Extremely.
What's immediately striking here is just the directness, the sheer gravity of these news flashes. They're clearly designed to grab your attention immediately.
Right, alarm bells.
Definitely. Conveying a sense of urgent crisis within the county. They set a very, very serious tone, implying these deep-seated systemic issues that go way beyond minor grievances or, typical political disagreements.
These aren't just complaints.
No, they're allegations of significant failures. Failures in governance, failures in public safety that, if true, would profoundly impact the community's trust, its reputation, everything.
And the mention of a state investigation into the supervisors.
That lends a certain official weight, doesn't it? Suggesting external scrutiny is already underway.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, in terms of understanding the root causes they identify. The fundamental issues driving this movement, as they state it, are institutionalized conflicts of economic interest, cronyism, and exclusionary collusion through the willful suppression of entrepreneurialism and innovation.
Wow, okay, let's unpack that. Institutionalized.
Right. It sounds like they're painting a picture of a system that actively works against new ideas, fair competition, the natural growth of the local economy.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, these aren't just allegations of, isolated incidents of poor decision-making. They're alleging a pervasive and deliberate systemic problem.
Systemic is the word.
Yeah. When they claim institutionalized conflicts of economic interests, they're suggesting that maybe those in power are making decisions that benefit their own finances or their associates.
Right.
Cronyism, that's pretty clear. Favoritism for friends, associates, often at the expense of the public good or merit. And exclusionary collusion, as they imply it, isn't just favoritism. It sounds like actively, maybe deliberately, working together to shut out new players.
Keep the circle closed.
Exactly. Shutting out fresh ideas, competitive businesses from the local economy. Think of it like, a private club where new members are just systematically blocked regardless of qualifications just to ensure only the established players thrive.
And the impact of that.
Well, the real insight here is how that kind of closed system over time doesn't just stifle entrepreneurship. It can actually drain a community's economic vitality, leads to stagnation, even if there's potential.
Even with potential, yeah.
They explicitly state this system leads to the willful suppression of entrepreneurialism and innovation, and results in the select support of legacy personalities, businesses, and industries.
Legacy personalities. Interesting term.
Isn't it? It raises that important question. Who truly benefits from a system like that? And who's systematically left out or disadvantaged? It suggests a kind of zero-sum game where a select few thrive, but at the expense of broader community development and, future prosperity.
Merit doesn't matter as much as connections.
That's the implication. Merit and new ideas take a backseat to connections and entrenched interests.
And the movement's unequivocal demand ties all of this together, makes their purpose undeniably clear. Calaveras public corruption must end.
Simple, direct.
Very clear, unambiguous. It sets the stage for their entire focus on the 2026 election. They see that election not just as a chance for small changes, but as the way to dismantle this alleged system.
Bring about a new era.
Yeah.
That demand really is the absolute core of their political agenda. It transforms their individual grievances from just, scattered complaints into this collective organized effort aimed at systemic change.
Right.
By explicitly calling out public corruption, they're asserting this fundamental breach of public trust and highlighting the need for a complete overhaul of how county affairs are conducted. It's a powerful, direct challenge to the establishment order.
They're saying the system is broken.
Fundamentally broken. It requires a complete reset through the election. They're basically putting the very integrity of the county government on the ballot in 2026.
So what does this all mean for the actual structure of power, the day-to-day decision-making in Calaveras County? The movement highlights what they call the opaqueness between conflicted government and ineffective business bureaus.
Opaqueness, yeah.
Sounds like a tangled web, potentially obscuring accountability.
It does, and it's presented as a critical structural issue. To kind of grasp the scale here, it helps to remember Calaveras County is geographically huge.
Right, you mentioned that.
Yeah, roughly twice the size of Rhode Island. But it has a relatively dispersed population, maybe 46,500 people.
Which present its own challenges.
Exactly. Unique governance challenges just due to the expanse and serving diverse communities. Now, the movement alleges there are multiple business bureaus with leadership and boards also serving as government officials.
Okay, so people wearing two hats.
Potentially, yes. These bureaus might be things like the Chamber of Commerce, maybe economic development groups, tourism boards, not necessarily bad entities in themselves.
But the overlap is the issue.
That's what they argue. This dual role, where individuals hold positions in both these ostensibly private business support groups and public government offices, creates inherent conflicts of interest.
How so?
Well, they claim this interconnectedness leads to institutionalized intransigence and incompetence. Imagine someone tasked with promoting business interests in one role, right?
Okay.
But in their government role, they might be responsible for regulating those same businesses or allocating resources that could benefit their own interests or their associates.
Ah, I see. The conflict.
This blending of roles, they argue, makes it incredibly hard to tell whose interests are truly being served the public's or a more select private few. And it makes the bureaucracy itself resistant to change, to innovation.
Their proposed solution for this entanglement sounds pretty radical, which really speaks to their level of frustration, I think.
What do they propose?
They state these business bureaus need to be purged of ineffective leadership, restaffed, and consolidated into financially viable and sustainable entities.
Purged. Strong word again.
Very. The ultimate goal, they say, is a common mission to support existing and emerging innovative Calaveras businesses, as well as bring new businesses and moneyed tourists to Calaveras County. It's a vision for a complete overhaul.
It really is. And this raises that important question. How does this interconnectedness, if it's true, actually impede transparency and accountability?
Good question.
When those lines between public service and private interest get blurred, it becomes incredibly difficult for the average citizen to track decisions, scrutinize spending, or hold officials accountable for outcomes.
Things get hidden in the complexity.
Potentially. The movement explicitly states institutionalized incompetence and cronyism must be removed from public office. This is a direct challenge to the status quo. They're aiming not just to change personnel, but to fundamentally reshape the economic and political landscape.
They believe you need structural change first.
It seems so, that without separating these intertwined roles and bringing in new, unconflicted leadership, true progress in economic development and responsive governance is just impossible. They want clear lines drawn, public interests first.
Okay, let's shift now to some very specific, tangible areas where the movement alleges government responsibility is falling short. Areas that directly impact daily life and safety, starting with public safety itself. Inadequately funded Calaveras County Sheriff's Office. The claim here is a severely understaffed and inadequately funded sheriff's office. What are the specifics? This sounds like it affects safety directly.
Yeah, and they provide some concrete evidence here, moving beyond just general claims. They actually point to statements from the former Calaveras County Sheriff, Rick DiBasilio.
Oh, the sheriff himself.
Yeah, who apparently spoke publicly about the biggest challenge being retaining personnel. So it's not just about hiring, it's about keeping experienced officers.
Losing institutional knowledge.
Exactly, and that consistent presence, the data they present really underscores this. They show a stark disparity with a neighboring county, Tuolumne County.
How so?
Tuolumne pays its deputies anywhere from $3 to $5 more an hour and offers a $20,000 sign-on bonus.
Wow. Compared to Calaveras.
Calaveras County is only offering $10,000.
Big difference. That makes it tough to compete.
Huge difference. It clearly makes it incredibly difficult for Calaveras to attract and, crucially, keep qualified, experienced officers when better pay is right next door. You end up in this cycle of training new people only to lose them.
So what does this all mean for you, the citizen, in terms of, actual law enforcement presence and response times, if deputies are leaving for better pay?
It has very direct consequences.
Yeah, for public safety. The movement links this directly to your everyday security, urging voters to support our law enforcement in the 2026 election by electing officials who will prioritize funding.
Right. It's about patrols, quick response when you need it.
Not just numbers on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. An understaffed department translates directly to tangible impacts. Longer response times to emergency calls critical in medical situations, crimes in progress.
Yeah, minutes matter.
They absolutely do. It means fewer proactive patrols, potentially leading to more crime opportunities, and it definitely affects the ability to conduct thorough investigations. Leads to that feeling of unaddressed crime.
So, a less safe feeling overall.
For the average citizen, yes. It translates directly to feeling less safe, less secure in their own community. The movement is framing this as a critical ballot issue. If you want a safer environment, elect leaders who prioritize competitive pay and proper staffing for law enforcement.
A clear economic argument with big social implications.
Precisely. Inadequately funded Calaveras County fire districts.
Okay, interestingly, while the sheriff's office faces those funding issues, the source points to a really remarkable citizen-led solution when it comes to fire districts. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is fascinating. It's an initiative known as Save Our Calaveras Fire Departments.
Save Our Calaveras Fire Department.
Right, and this wasn't a county government proposal, not top-down. This was entirely a citizen undertaken effort.
Wow.
Which really shows how communities can step up when they perceive a government shortfall, especially for essential services.
So what do they do?
This initiative, born out of community concern, resulted in voters approving a 1% sales tax increase, exclusively benefiting the 10 fire districts throughout Calaveras County. They did this in the March 2024 primary.
A sales tax just for fire districts,
Yeah.
passed by the voters themselves.
Exactly. A powerful example of direct action. The community taking its financial destiny into its own hands for a critical service. It really implies a high degree of urgency, maybe a lack of faith in existing government funding.
This initiative, driven by these concerned and motivated Calaveras County citizens, was specifically designed, they say, to ensure enough firefighters and state-of-the-art equipment will be available and ready to respond to emergencies 24/7.
Round-the-clock readiness.
Which strongly suggests that citizens saw a critical need that the government allegedly wasn't addressing sufficiently.
Seems so.
The movement highlights this as citizens having intelligently acted to protect our community tomorrow and to protect our lives and properties. It's a powerful endorsement of citizen action, but maybe also a subtle critique of government priorities.
I think that's fair to say. It's indeed a stark contrast to the sheriff's office situation. Here, the citizens, seemingly out of necessity and self-preservation, essentially bypassed what they might have seen as a reluctant or incapable county government.
To directly fund a vital service.
Yes, especially vital in a region prone to wildfires. It also implicitly critiques the county's broader fiscal priorities by highlighting this area where citizens felt compelled to self-fund through a sales tax.
It speaks volumes about civic engagement.
Born out of dire necessity, perhaps, and a perceived failure of traditional governance to prioritize basic life safety infrastructure. And this move ensures dedicated funding streams, less susceptible to, political maneuvering or budget cuts. Inadequately funded Calaveras County Public Works and Infrastructure, Murphy's as a case study.
Okay, moving on to infrastructure, foundational stuff. Murphy's is identified as the economic engine of Calaveras County, right? Draws visitors, supports businesses.
That's what the source says, yeah. Key economic driver.
Yet the movement alleges it for decades has lacked adequate public works and infrastructure improvements. Decades. What specific deficiencies are mentioned? What does this neglect mean for that economic engine?
They list quite a number of critical improvements needed. Things that directly affect both residents' quality of life and, crucially, that tourism industry Murphy's relies on.
Like what? Not just potholes.
No, much more fundamental. Things like adequate public bathrooms essential for tourists, efficient refuse collection, regular street cleaning, basic hygiene that impacts perception.
Yeah, basics.
Beyond that, better parking solutions, lack of parking deters visitors, sidewalk rehabilitation for safety and accessibility, and they mention a necessary Main Street pedestrian bridge over Angels Creek.
A bridge?
Yeah, which they stress is essential for public safety, indicating a real hazard without it. Plus, improved crosswalks, traffic control to manage the flow safely, and an enhanced law enforcement presence there, too.
These are all fundamental for a thriving tourist town.
Absolutely. The ripple effect of these deficiencies can be significant diminishing tourist appeal, hitting local business revenue, overall resident satisfaction.
And the movement stresses a critical historical point here. The above issues have been repeatedly addressed to county government for decades, yet these issues remain.
Decades. That's the kicker.
This implies a very long-standing pattern of inaction, despite awareness. It's not a new problem. It's deeply entrenched, seemingly ignored. What does that long history tell you?
That historical context is absolutely crucial, I think. It points to this profound level of institutional inertia, maybe, where concerns are voiced consistently by the community.
And nothing happens.
Meaningful action is just continually deferred or ignored. This kind of prolonged neglect of basic essential infrastructure, especially in their key economic hub, it just fuels the movement's claims of intransigence and incompetence.
Understandably frustrating for locals.
Hugely. For a business owner relying on tourists or a longtime resident, seeing these same issues year after year despite complaints, it would understandably lead to deep frustration, disillusionment, and a belief that current leadership just isn't responsive or capable.
Erodes trust completely.
And incentivizes seeking alternative ways to force change, like this movement, inadequately funded Calaveras County Winter Emergency Services. Beyond general infrastructure, the source also highlights a critical issue specific to certain times of year, the lack of emergency winter services.
Winter storms.
Especially affecting communities up county in the Arnold area and in other communities at higher elevations during recent winters. And this isn't just inconvenience. It includes the vital need to restore funding for fallen tree and snow removal workers.
Which can be life or death in those areas.
Absolutely. For people in higher elevations, heavy snow, severe storms, the absence of these services can cut off access to everything. Essential services, emergency medical care, basic supplies. It's a direct threat.
And the movement frames these directly as life safety issues that need to be addressed in the 2026 election.
There it is again, linking it to the election.
Yeah. Linking government response during emergencies to citizen well-being. Positioning the election as the moment for resolution. Reinforces their message. These aren't minor issues. They're fundamental failures impacting lives.
Precisely. When essential services like snow removal or clearing fallen trees are neglected, especially in remote or high elevation areas, it can lead to catastrophic isolation.
People get
Trapped, unable to get medical help, food, whatever. Prevents first responders from reaching people, paralyzes local economies. By tying these critical life safety issues directly to the 2026 election.
They're challenging incumbents on a core duty.
Exactly. Their most fundamental duty, protect and serve, especially in vulnerable areas during predictable emergencies, makes the abstract idea of government responsibility very concrete, very urgent for those who live through those harsh winters. Inadequately funded Calaveras County waste management. There's another interesting kind of contemporary connection made here regarding waste management.
Let's crash.
Yeah. The movement observes a dramatic increase in short-term rentals, especially from Murphy's to Dorrington. Think Airbnb, VRBO.
Okay, more tourists staying longer, maybe?
Or just more units available. And with that comes a corresponding predictable increase in the amount of refuse. More people, more trash.
Makes sense.
It's a direct consequence of that changing tourism landscape. The movement argues that innovative and visionary leadership and action is required to address waste management issues to improve Calaveras County's cleanliness.
Implying existing systems aren't keeping up.
Exactly. Suggests the current systems aren't adapting to these dynamic changes in the local economy and population patterns. It's an issue of adaptability, foresight.
So, as tourism evolves with more short-term rentals, the county's infrastructure for things like trash collection isn't adapting, leading to noticeable cleanliness problems.
That seems to be the claim. A lack of foresight or proactive planning from leadership to manage the consequences of these economic shifts.
What might innovative and visionary leadership look like here? What are they suggesting?
Well, that's the core of their argument on this point. The rise in short-term rentals, while maybe an economic positive in some ways,
Brings more money in.
right, but it unequivocally brings increased strain on local services, especially waste management. The movement sees the current situation as a failure to anticipate and adapt. When they call for innovative and visionary leadership, they likely mean solutions beyond just, standard weekly pickup.
Like what?
Maybe exploring public-private partnerships, investing in more frequent collection in high-density tourist spots, implementing better public recycling, composting programs, maybe even educational campaigns for rental guests on waste disposal.
So, not just complaining about trash.
No, they're pointing to a deeper problem: outdated or insufficient approaches to modern challenges. They want leadership that thinks strategically about growth and its impacts, environmental, logistical.
Okay, let's shift gears now to economic development, crucial for any county's long-term health. The movement highlights two significant areas of concern here, starting with tourism marketing.
Right, tourism again.
They note that over just 4 years, a really substantial sum, $1,752,199.42, was invested in Calaveras County tourism marketing.
Wow, nearly $1.8 million. That's a lot of money.
A very significant amount of taxpayer money aimed at boosting the economy through tourism.
Yet, despite the substantial investment, the assessment from the movement is stark, unequivocal, they call it. Failing Calaveras tourism.
Failing after spending $1.8 million.
Exactly, which raises a critical question, doesn't it? What does this dramatic discrepancy suggest? How are these funds being used? How effective are the strategies?
Or are there strategies at all?
Or is it a lack of measurable results? Maybe a lack of transparency in how results are even measured, reported, evaluated. They're basically asking, where did all that money go and what did it actually achieve?
In terms of bringing in those moneyed tourists they talk about.
Right. It implies either gross inefficiency or maybe misdirection of vital economic development funds.
It certainly sounds like they believe the county is pouring money into a black hole without clear returns, or without a robust strategy.
Yeah.
Which ties directly back to their broader critique of fiscal irresponsibility that demand for results, not activities we talked about.
Exactly. It's not enough to just spend. You have to spend effectively.
Right.
For a county that explicitly recognizes Murphy's as its economic engine and relies so heavily on tourism, this alleged failure in marketing effectiveness is a really critical point of contention.
It undermines a core part of their economy.
The movement implies that simply spending money isn't the answer. It needs to be spent strategically, with clear goals, rigorous metrics, real accountability for the outcomes. This reinforces their demand for results-oriented governance, not just activities they see as wasting taxpayer dollars.
A disconnect between investment and actual benefit.
That's what they seem to be suggesting. Failure to attract new industry, business, and jobs to Calaveras County.
Here's where it gets really interesting, I think, and highlights a potentially massive missed opportunity for Calaveras County.
Okay.
The movement identifies a critical failure related to attracting new industry, especially capitalizing on recent workforce shifts, remote work, tech dynamics.
Ah, the pandemic effect.
Exactly. During the pandemic, there was indeed a considerable increase in home-based workers who relocated to Calaveras County.
Right.
And the movement points out much of this talent relocated from the tech sector of the Bay Area.
Right. People bringing skills, often money, maybe an innovation mindset.
Then they highlight a very current event, the recent surge of layoffs impacting many thousands of employees from Bay Area companies such as Google, Facebook, Twitter, and Salesforce.
Yeah, that's been big news.
Their compelling argument is that many of these displaced employees could be recruited to potentially establish startup ventures in Calaveras County.
That's a really interesting idea. Leveraging that talent pool that's already there or nearby and maybe looking for a change. Huge potential.
Huge potential for diversifying, invigorating the local economy. But the movement alleges that Calaveras County's Economic and Community Development Department has failed to actively prioritize recruiting these displaced employees, contract workers, and entrepreneurs with business startup incentives.
Failed to prioritize it, so the opportunity was there, but maybe wasn't seized.
That's the allegation. What's the profound implication here for Calaveras' future economic vitality, its ability to innovate? This sounds like a critical failure to capitalize on a unique moment.
The implication is truly profound, I think. It speaks to potentially a significant lack of strategic vision, maybe proactive engagement from the county's economic development arm.
Right.
These tech workers, displaced employees, they represent this highly skilled, often financially secure group with a strong entrepreneurial spirit. They're perfectly positioned to bring new industries, foster diversification, introduce high-paying jobs, could really jumpstart an innovation ecosystem there.
Transform the place, potentially.
Potentially. By allegedly failing to offer targeted incentives, things like, I don't know, streamlined permitting, tax breaks, maybe access to co-working spaces, networking opportunities.
Or even just actively recruiting them.
Right. By failing to do that, the county isn't just missing out on new jobs, it's missing the chance to fundamentally transform its economic base, make it more resilient, more forward-looking.
And this inaction.
According to the movement, it just reinforces their narrative of institutionalized incompetence that stifles progress and neglects real opportunities for growth and innovation. It suggests a passive approach rather than proactive to the county's economic future. A missed boat.
So, bringing all these threads together, the infrastructure issues, the economic development concerns, the alleged cronyism, what does this all mean when it comes to the county's money and its overall governance? The movement has a comprehensive critique on fiscal matters.
They definitely do. The movement details its criticisms of what it calls fiscal irresponsibility, and they keep emphasizing that demand for results, not activities.
That phrase again.
Yeah, it's key. They're not just criticizing what money is spent on, but how it's managed, demanding tangible outcomes, not just bureaucratic busy work. They accuse the county government of throwing good money after bad.
Meaning?
Implying investing in ineffective programs or initiatives repeatedly without proper oversight or accountability, just compounding the waste. More critically, they specifically highlight that failing to adequately fund required services, such as fire protection, law enforcement, and public works, is fiscally irresponsible.
So it's not just waste, it's also misallocation.
Exactly. They're talking about a fundamental misallocation or underprioritization of resources that directly harms essential public services. And by extension, community safety and well-being. It's a critique of both spending habits and fundamental budget priorities.
And the critical point for the movement links these fiscal issues directly to the election. They state unequivocally that supporting unqualified and conflicted individuals in positions of critical fiscal importance in the next Calaveras County Board of Supervisors election is irresponsible.
Right there, tying fiscal concerns directly to leadership choices.
Directly ties their deep concerns about county finances to their core message. Bring in new, more ethical, demonstrably responsible leadership through the ballot box. They're saying the two are absolutely linked.
And this raises that important underlying question that seems to run through many of their allegations. What's the fundamental impact of a lack of Calaveras County government transparency and accountability in all these fiscal matters?
How does secrecy enable bad decisions?
Pretty much. When there's a lack of transparency, it becomes significantly easier for funds to be mismanaged, for priorities to get skewed, maybe for those conflicted interests to influence decisions without adequate public scrutiny.
Easier to hide things.
Without clear oversight, public access to financial decisions. The system itself becomes vulnerable to the kind of cronyism and exclusionary collusion they allege. The movement explicitly points listeners to their blog to learn about why new, ethical, dignified, and responsible Calaveras County Board of Supervisors are demanded.
Suggesting transparency is the cure.
Or at least an essential first step. They seem to believe transparency isn't just good practice, it's absolutely essential for uncovering and fixing fiscal mismanagement and ensuring real accountability to taxpayers.
Okay, so this isn't just about complaining. It's clearly a movement for tangible change. With a roadmap, what's the overarching goal for 2026, and how are they building momentum? Sounds pretty sophisticated.
The explicit objective is crystal clear. Putting the needs of Calaveras County citizens first in the 2026 election.
Citizens first.
It signals that shift from just observing and complaining to active, targeted political engagement. They're mobilizing citizens to translate frustration into votes, believing new leadership is the most direct path to reform.
Built on the premise the current government hasn't prioritized them.
That's the core message.
And they're even taking this incredibly proactive step, cultivating new leaders. The website has a section titled, "Are you inspired to run for Calaveras County Supervisor?"
Wow, really putting it out there.
A bold, direct call to action. The site actively encourages new candidates, even providing a kind of roadmap for getting involved in the election process. They're not just hoping for change, they're actively trying to grow it from within the community.
That's a strong sign of commitment, isn't it? Not just tearing down, but trying to build up alternatives.
Exactly.
And their strategy seems remarkably specific and well-researched, too. They have this clear district-by-district focus for the upcoming elections.
They've mapped it out.
Looks like it. They list the supervisor districts, the communities within them, and outline precisely which districts are up in 2026. That's District 3, covering places like Murphys, Arnold, Dorrington, and District 5, which includes Jenny Lynn and Rancho Calaveras.
And they know which ones are later.
Yeah. They specify that Districts 1, 2, and 4 will be contested in 2028. This detailed breakdown shows a highly targeted political strategy. They've done their homework on the electoral landscape.
Focusing their efforts.
Allocating efforts where they believe they can have the most impact. Shows a level of organization far beyond just a casual protest. They're aiming for a systematic shift in power.
So with all these detailed allegations, the strategic objectives, how exactly is this movement getting its message out, building its case? How are they reaching you, the concerned citizen?
Well, Calaveras2026election.com is the absolute central hub for everything.
The website is key.
It's where they publish their findings, articulate arguments, organize calls to action. And interestingly, the platform even received some external recognition. Feedspot.com, which tracks blogs and content, they designated it a top 45 California politics blog back in May 2025.
Okay, so it's getting noticed beyond the county.
That external validation suggests their content is impactful not just locally, but is being recognized for its influence in the broader California political discussion. Lends some credibility to their efforts.
And the platform boasts an extensive Calaveras 2024 and 2026 election archive of investigative reporting results. This isn't just opinion pieces.
Right. It features what they explicitly call investigative articles and significantly an archive of video recorded statements.
The video recording of what
This sounds like they're not just making claims, but actively compiling this detailed body of evidence. What does this emphasis on documentation imply?
It implies they want proof.
What's truly fascinating here is the tangible multimedia evidence they claim to have compiled. The explicit mention of video-recorded statements is particularly powerful.
Yeah, what are these videos of?
They indicate these videos capture them addressing the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors and City Council of Angels Camp on endemic exclusionary collusion, conflicts of interest, cronyism, and Calaveras public corruption and government corruption.
Wow. So recordings of them confronting officials directly.
That's what it suggests. A concerted, documented effort to confront public officials directly in official settings and meticulously record these interactions as evidence.
The very public act of alleged exposure.
Exactly, providing a direct record of their grievances being presented to those in power. This kind of direct, documented confrontation lends significant weight to their allegations, shifts them from just accusations to claims backed by seemingly public record.
Shows they're prepared to back up the strong language.
With specific, verifiable instances, it seems.
And there's one more significant detail that highlights their commitment to sharing this information widely. The Creative Commons release.
Ah, the CC license. What kind?
CC BY-NC-ND 4.0. This specific license allows others to republish their stories, their findings, their evidence online or in print.
As long as they give credit and link back.
Exactly. With proper attribution and a link back to Calaveras2026election.com. This speaks to a real desire for broad dissemination, public awareness. They want their message to spread.
That's an incredibly strategic move, isn't it? To amplify their voice, ensure their message reaches beyond just their direct readers or the local community.
Get it out there.
By allowing free republication, they're inviting broader media scrutiny, wider public discussion of their detailed allegations. This not only boosts their visibility, but also subtly pressures the county government by exposing these claims more widely.
Makes them the go-to source.
It cements their role as a central information source for anyone concerned about governance in Calaveras. And it underscores their core belief in the public's right To know something they often imply is lacking from the government itself turns their website into a public resource for accountability.
Wow. Okay, so we've just completed a really deep dive into the compelling claims, the detailed concerns raised by this Calaveras 2026 election movement.
Quite a lot to unpack.
It really is. From allegations of deep-seated corruption and cronyism to very specific issues like severely underfunded public services, neglected infrastructure in key economic areas, and this perceived failure to capitalize on new economic opportunities.
Yeah.
This group of local citizens and business owners is making a very public, highly organized stand. They're meticulously documenting their case, compiling evidence, and strategically channeling all that frustration into a concrete political strategy.
Aimed squarely at the 2026 election.
Exactly. Seeking nothing less than a fundamental change in county leadership.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is the methodical way they've done it. How a group of local citizens and business owners has meticulously organized and documented their grievances,
Turning complaints into action.
transforming what might just be isolated complaints into this direct collective call for political action. Their emphasis on accountability, the detailed presentation of alleged failures, the strategic targeting of the election, it demonstrates a really sophisticated understanding of how to try and affect systemic change locally.
They're not just voicing concerns.
No, they're actively building a comprehensive movement designed, it seems, to reshape the future of Calaveras County.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? Whether you're in Calaveras County or somewhere else entirely. This case is a really powerful example of community engagement.
And the critical role citizens can play.
The critical active role citizens can play when they feel their local government isn't delivering or isn't operating transparently. It shows how deep frustration, when channeled constructively, strategically,
Can become a real driving force.
can become a driving force for significant change from the ground up, pushing for a government that's more responsive, more accountable, and ultimately truly serve the needs of its people. It's a potent reminder of the power of civic participation.
And it raises an important question for all of us, really, wherever we live. Consider how the specific issues raised by this movement in Calaveras, challenges on local government transparency, accountability.
The funding of essential services.
Right, the long-term impacts of underfunding police, fire, public works, or those missed opportunities in economic development. How might those issues resonate or be mirrored in other communities, maybe even your own?
Makes you think about your own backyard.
It prompts us to examine the state of our own local leadership and, critically, our own civic participation in shaping the places we call home. What stands out to you in your community's governance, and what opportunities for engagement might you uncover if you started digging? Something to mull over.
My name is Christopher Butner. I am the publisher of Calaveras 2026election.com, and I approve this message. Thank you for listening.